Welcome to Boston's North End, which is famous for its Italian-American scene, but it also has a few more stops on the Freedom Trail. Today we're going to walk along the Freedom Trail, zigzag through the North End, see a few of the Italian shops like pizzerias and also amazing pastry shops, and then we're going to go up to Charleston to see Bunker Hill. I'm Ariel, we are in Boston, and join me for a walk through history and through food. So right now we are starting right in front of one of the oldest houses in this area of Boston, dating back all the way to 1680. However, in 1770, when this house was already very old, it was bought out by an American hero, or soon to be an American hero. His name is Paul Revere. Let's take a closer look. So yes, Dustin, we are right by Paul Revere's house, right here. There we go. Glad I got safe back from Boston. No, I'm still in Boston, Kay. Hello, Tosio, welcome. Nice to see you here. Welcome, everyone. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm Ariel with Urbanist. Right here it says, here in North Square lived Paul Revere and his wife Rachel Revere, which was his second wife, for whom this overlook is named. Here lived Major Pitcairn of the soldiery occupying Boston in 1775. Governor Thomas Hutchinson, Sir Harry Franklin, and William Clark. That alarm that British troops were marching to Concord to seize Patriot stores was given by Paul Revere, the man himself. Many men of the North Square and its neighborhood joined the Boston Tea Party at Griffin's Wharf and threw the tea overboard. This public open space is built, and the tablet was erected by the Boston Park Commission in 1946. Now, of course, we are in the grand city of Boston, one of the most historic cities in all of America. It's also the birthplace of the American Revolution. And one of the men who really kick-started the American Revolution was shortly after the events of what is now known as the Boston Massacre, which I talked about in the first half of the Freedom Trail tour, which you can check out after this video. Paul Revere made an engraving depicting the British soldiers kneeling down in order to make a fire volley onto the crowd. It quite didn't pan out that way. It was more a chaotic scuffle that happened in Boston, and then there was a death of 5 people. But this ignited the colonists in order to revolt against the British, along with help from Samuel Adams. This is the photo, or the depiction, the painting of Paul Revere. He kind of looks like Jack Black. He does look like Jack Black, and this is going to play into what we're going to talk about him a little bit later when we see his sculpture. And my mic is not muffled, it's just I'm using a mask. And sometimes the mask, if you use it too much, it starts getting into one's mouth. It's annoying. I mean, I'm doing what I can to, of course, protect people as I'm walking around. But yeah, to be honest, masks are a bit annoying, especially when talking. Now, Paul Revere already bought this house when it was already very old. It was already 90 years old. So if we're looking at this house and thinking this house is old, imagine you buying a 90-year-old house. Many people don't do that unless if you live in older European cities or villages. It's not really a common experience here in the US because most houses don't tend to be more than 50, 60 years old. And sometimes that's the maximum. But I do have a very old photo of what the house looked like back when this was its thriving North End days. This is what the house looked like back in the mid-1900s. Hello, Blakely. Janice says I sound fine. Hello, Tocio. Hello, Donald. Hello, Laureen. Hello, Jason. Hello, Vasilios. Hello, Janice. Hello, Loma. Hello, Brian. Hello, Emily. Anna, love the local architecture. While you're in my hometown, says Gretchen. Yes, I am. Hope you can point out the Union Oyster House. I actually did a few days ago. It was streamed to YouTube, so you can check out the replay. But look at the gorgeous architecture. We're going to see more of the architecture. We're really going to enjoy this nice walk around here. And this might be a bit of a longer video because we have a bit of walking to do and some eating to do. So here it says, here lived Paul Revere, 1770 to 1800. Now, why is Paul Revere famous? There was a lot of men involved in the revolution. And by no means was Paul Revere the only man who actually warned the colonists about the British invading. He was actually accompanied by 2 other men. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's a few factors about Paul Revere. One, he was very good at making the initial propaganda. And yes, it was propaganda because he exaggerated an incident and made it look like if it was a massive massacre. He was very good at that. He was also an artisan and a very talented one. He ended up opening up one of the most very successful copper businesses in America shortly after the war. But during the war of the American Revolution, or the War of the Rebellion if you're from Britain, he supplied cannons and also made the very first form of paper money here in America. So he was very vital to kind of how the US was armed and also how the US operated in terms of monetary exchange, which is actually a big deal when you think about it. Of course, we all know him for his ride, which we'll mention a little bit later when we see his statue. But when you take into account those 2 things, it's a very big deal. Also, he was an artisan. As I mentioned, he was a coppersmith. So being an artisan was exactly what the revolution was about. The revolution wasn't about maintaining that elite status of royal families or royally appointed officials. It was about giving power to the people. The people in the American Revolution wasn't everyone, but it was mostly property owning artisans and working class. So there's a huge line for people to wait out here. Now, Paul Revere owning this house in 1770 was a big deal because he wasn't a property owner before 1770. And in order to vote, in order to have a say in the local state house, you had to be a property owner. And once you own some property, then you can actually vote. Even before our democratic system, it also meant you can vote in the parliamentary system in British rule. Not directly with Parliament, but the local ruling. Let's now walk and zigzag through the North End. Now, this is on the Freedom Trail, which we see over here. Actually, I'll point it out a little bit closer. So the Freedom Trail is over here. The line changes a little bit, but it's mostly a brick line that goes all along Boston, the historic site. Now let's see if we can actually go to another different house, which is actually around the corner. And my nephew lived there during the Big Dig. Oh yeah, I came here when the Big Dig was happening. That's when I visited as a teenager. And it was very, very hectic. Okay, so we're gonna actually crisscross this way. This is gonna be a little bit tricky here. We're going to do a lot of zigzagging, as I always mention in my videos, but unlike New York and maybe a few other cities I've covered, this particular neighborhood is going to be even trickier to kind of follow where I'm going. So as I mentioned many times before, don't try to follow me on a map, or don't try to kind of orient yourself. Just go with the flow as we explore all the history. I'll post all the stops I made on the Google Maps link after this video. So here's North Square. Wow. And here we're already starting to see what makes this neighborhood different. Because Boston was founded by Puritans. And Puritans left England that was very intolerant to them, and they sought out a new land where they can be intolerant to others. And thus, they were intolerant to Native Americans, to, of course, African Americans, or Africans at that time. And then they were intolerant towards the Irish Catholics. Irish started coming here in droves in the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, to the point where there was 1 in every 4 Bostonians who were Irish during that time. But then in the 1890s, 1900s, many more Italians were coming here. And both of those groups were Catholics. So suddenly Boston's makeup of being mostly a Puritan origin / Protestant culture ended up becoming a lot more Catholic, with a lot more Catholic churches all around. Looks like a gorgeous day to explore the North End. Oh yes it is. I'm actually really blown away by the beauty of this place. Janet says, Irish Catholics, yay, yeah indeed. And let's see what other markings we see here. Oh wow. It's in the shape of a luggage with a lot of emblems from different places. We see New York, we see Russia, Nedford, London, England, Greece, Italy, Venezia, Armenia. Oh, I love that. What is this about? It's called North Square Stories, the series of sculptures. And we see a huge crowd of Italians out here in front of the Sacred Heart Church. Us Irish get everywhere. Yes, they do. Now, one puzzle I have, I actually couldn't find an answer, is right now we're in the Italian area, but maybe a little bit later when we explore further up in Charlestown, we will see more Irish influence. And unlike New York, Irish culture really hasn't survived strongly in New York. You have, of course, Irish pubs still, and you have the St. Patrick's Day parade, but you don't have Irish culture with slang and terminology and food and even the flag still flying around. But here in Boston you do, and I couldn't quite find an answer why that is the case. So if anyone knows, especially for any Bostonian locals, I'm very curious, why is the Irish culture here much stronger than it is in New York? So the North End is also known for its Italian-American food, and there's a lot of restaurants in these alleyways. Am I going to Mike's Pastries? Oh, yes I am. After like 2 more stops, which is right in front of the corner, but let's go to one stop around here first. Okay, I think we should be Oh, it's right down here. Okay. I walked a little bit too far. Oh, and this is a landmark. This building was the Florentine Cafe. Oh, interesting. Hello, Lorraine. Paul, you lived in Charlestown on Chestnut Street, a 2-minute walk from Bunker Hill in the late 1970s. And at the time, it was an Irish working class. Yeah, so we're gonna go a little bit further later to Charleston. And here should be, okay, cool. So this is my first time really in 15 years coming to the North End, so I don't know the directions off the top of my head. But that's why you watch Urbanist. You know, New York, I really know my way around at this point. And when I explored London, I explored so much that I did already know a good portion of it. But Boston, I don't know. So anytime you watch an Urbanist show in a new city, I think getting lost is part of the journey. And I always encourage people to embrace it. Here is Garden Court Street. This street was long noted for its gardens and governors. At number 4, opposite the site of Governor Hutchinson's mansion, lived one of Boston's Irish governors, John J. Fitzgerald, the ward boss, congressman, and mayor. His daughter was Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy. You might recognize that name because he's the beloved mother of President John F. Kennedy and the matriarch, basically, of the Kennedy family that still is with us today. Now, but across the street, we have what used to be the mansion of Governor Hutchinson. Now, Governor Hutchinson was the man who was in power during the American Revolution. Now, it is interesting that Governor Hutchinson, the man who was on the British side, lived just a block away from the man who revolted against the British, Paul Revere. Governor Hutchinson was actually the great-great-grandson of Anne Hutchinson. If you watched my other video, you might have remembered that name because Anne Hutchinson was the woman who had very liberal ideas when it came to Puritan religion, to Christianity, and was ousted from the colony. She moved all the way to Rhode Island and then left to New York, and in New York she was slaughtered by Native Americans along with her entire family. And the Puritans were like, you were a heretic after all. But some of that family did survive, and it led to Hutchinson, still living in Boston. But despite that family not having strong ties to Puritans, and Hutchinson himself saw himself more as an Anglican, he still took power and got into the good graces of royal government. And during the Boston Massacre, he actually got on the balcony of that state house and told everyone, calm down, we will all get justice. Eventually they did get justice, so he kept his promise because a few of those officers were charged with manslaughter. But during that event, his house was ransacked by angry patriots. They were going all through his house, stealing everything they can, shattering all the windows. And Governor Hutchinson had to go out to his estate outside of Boston. Luckily, he had 2 estates, which was good. But he actually rebuilt this mansion up again. And we see it still standing here today. I've never been, and I wish to. Oh, hello, Julio. Hello, Dustin, Hanover Street. Yes, we're going to go Hanover Street. Some of my friends like Boston and encourage me to visit. I have a choice, and I will always choose Manhattan. Boston is actually as walkable, or maybe even more walkable than Manhattan itself. I'm actually really stunned by how easy it is to walk around the city. All right, let's go back to Hanover Street. Look at all those beautiful buildings. I agree. Gorgeous, gorgeous buildings here. So just imagine if the Lower East Side had a grid system similar to the financial district in Manhattan, and you'll have this. Adam, yes, I am indeed in the North End. Bookish girl, you loved my Salem tour. I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's cross the street. Oh, wow. What happened to last night's video? Adam, oh, they're still up. There was only one video where I was just doing the test, and it was successful. So that test was removed. Love your tours. I'm one granny from Croatia. Oh, welcome, Dubravka. Nice to see you here. So here's the Church of St. Leonard's Peace Garden. Look how gorgeous it is. Whoa. Beautiful. Have you ever met legendary tour guide Timothy Speed Levitch? No, never met him at all, Mike. All right, let's go through here. Sally, you're streaming me on your TV. Oh, that's amazing. Is today your last day in Boston? No, I'm here for 2 more days. And then I'm back in New York. Oh, wow. Look at this old house or old business. What is this? Looks run down. Huh. Wow. Here we have people playing basketball. I could feel the haunted vibe watching the Salem tour. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean, MDW. Janice says, beautiful streets. Oh, I agree. So here we see a famous name in the neighborhood, here on the street sign. Polcari Playground. Polcari is the family who ended up buying a very famous pizzeria, which we're walking to right now. Am I in Hanover Street? No, I just passed it. We're going back on it soon. I'm just admiring the beautiful architecture. Where am I headed the next 2 days? Oh, I'm not sure. I don't really plan too much ahead, and I tend to not announce really where I go. So you just have to tune in, 1 p.m. What is their transit system? Here they have the T, basically a subway, but it has it's kind of a fusion of some buses that run underground, and also some trains similar to a subway, and some streetcars that pass through the middle of the street. Look at this corner. Oh, I love this. The copper facades are gorgeous, yeah, following that tradition of Paul Revere himself. Pizza Regina, I believe, is there because of Pocari's restaurant. Oh yes, I'll pass by it soon. So here we have Bova's Bakery. Bova's Bakery dates back to 1926. And there is a certain debate that happens among local Bostonians from what I've read and seen on various YouTube videos, that they don't know which one is the best one. Everyone says a different thing. It's either Bova's, Mike's Pastries, and Modern Pastry. Mike's is the most famous one amongst the tourists. Bova's is the most famous one amongst the locals. Modern is kind of in between. Today we're going to try all three of them, permitting that Mike's isn't too crowded. Bova's doesn't look too crowded. So if you're down for some cannolis, and yes, we're in America, it's cannolis. If we're in Italy, then it would be cannolo. But here in America, it's cannolis. If you're down for some cannolis, let me know. Let's go inside Bova's.
Can I have one of these? Yeah, I mean, I have not.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hello, how
Hi.
are you?
We'd like a regular cannoli, please.
Okay.
Yeah. In the box.
You want another ball? Okay.
Yeah. Oh wow. Also have a black and white cookie, please.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And a bag, please.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, offer.
The guy we just had to get. Yes. They give us. Oh, they give each other Wow, let's that. Let's try that. That's a little good. Okay, $8 extra.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so $8 for one cannoli and one black and white cookie. Now, we're in Boston. Why did I get a black and white cookie? Why did I get a black and white cookie in the middle of Boston? Cannolis is because Italian Americans in general just eat a bunch of cannolis. But in New York City, in New York City, it's very rare. In New York City, it's very rare to find a black and white cookie that actually has frosting. It's usually made with fondant, and the original black and white cookie recipe was made with frosting. So I'm super excited to try an actual originally recipe black and white cookie, even though it's not Italian American and it's not Bostonian. It's a New York cookie made by Jewish bakers. So we're seizing the opportunity to try a little piece of history in the most unexpected place. Let's go. We're going to eat this a little bit later because we're going to try every single, those top 3 cannolis. And I'm going to give you my opinion on which one I like the best. So we're pitting 3 cannolis against each other and eating a black and white cookie. But before we do, let's find this pizzeria that's worldwide known. Oh, actually, at least America known. It's known all around America. It's been very popular. Hopefully it's not too full. So we have a lot of famous restaurants all around here. Wow, look at these fire escapes. Never turn down a black and white, especially when it looks authentically original. Janice, it is very rare to find a classically black and white cookie with frosting. Ooh, a little farmer's market. Look at that. It's very reminiscent of like what old Italian neighborhoods would have looked like. Look at the streets. Oreos are great, but for breaking your teeth. I don't eat too much Oreos. I don't eat too much processed, packaged food. Since I live in New York and I usually visit cities like New York, like Boston, like Paris, I like going to the cafes and the pastry shops and eating something that's more freshly made. It's my personal preference. Have you done a tour of Harbor Walk? No, not yet. No. What do you recommend in Harbor Walk? Here's Pocari's coffee. I think they're the same Pocari family, which was mentioned in that street name that we pointed out earlier. And I love the architecture. Oh, yes. Is this the area of the Boston Strangler? No, I don't think so, Donna. I usually don't cover those type of stories, so from what I generally read, I don't think so. I think that's a different neighborhood. Well, otherwise, I probably wouldn't cover a story like that. It's not my favorite thing. Oh, I just love that Boston has so many tiny little streets. It also reminds me a little bit of Naples. What's my favorite seafood? Oh, you asked that at the perfect time, MDW. I've actually been meaning to come to this place to try their clam chowder. This is Neptune oyster. My favorite type of seafood. I love my lobster rolls. I love oysters. And clam chowder is delicious, to be honest. And I gotta come back here to try their clam chowder, though it is a restaurant. And As I mentioned many times before, Boston has alleyways, unlike New York. I love the side streets. Oh yeah, I do. Me too. Oh, and look at the Boston skyline. Let me know. I love scallops. Yeah, scallops cooked is just ooh, delicious. Have I ever been to Glasgow? No, not yet. I really want to go. It's on the top of my list. As I mentioned before, UK's and the British Isles overall, so including Ireland, is on the top of my list of places I really want to cover. So I think it's a bit poetic that I'm coming here to Boston, where they split off from the motherland, Britain, and started off their own country, because I want to go back to the motherland and go back, get in touch with my non-British roots.
We're the best thing.
Are you visiting the Cheers facade? Maybe. I'll do maybe a tiny little video on it. I never really watched the show Cheers, so I don't know too much about it. But we might wander it later. Boston looks a lot cleaner than New York. It really does. It really, really does. And it's cleaner. It feels more calmer than New York. It has that big city feel, so we are walking through its streets and it feels really relaxing and calm. Am I walking to Bunker Hill? Yeah, soon. We're just exploring the North End first. Kind of just enjoying the vibes at the North End. Nicole says, hit that like button. Yes, thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it. Big shout out to Nicole and B. Griffin, who encourage people on YouTube to hit that like button. Really do appreciate it. And Zolst, we are in Boston. Boston, Massachusetts, in the US of A. Yeah. 3 hours away from New York. Is Quincy Market open? Yes, it is. I visited a few days ago. Check out that previous video. Tons of brick in Boston. Oh yes. It has a lot of that influence from its original architect of many of the classic historic buildings, Charles Bulfinch. Here we see a sign you're going to see a lot in Boston. It says "Don't dump. Drains to the Boston Harbor." They installed this a few decades ago. I think it was back in the 60s, 70s. And yep, these drainages go directly to the Boston Harbor. The overuse of the word amazing. Amazingly, I love the word amazing because I have a true passion for the sights we're seeing. It is truly amazing, at least from my perspective. And I know it might not seem amazing to other people sometimes, but when I go through these streets, I just have to say they are truly amazing. So if you do agree with me on the beauty about the word amazing, let me know in the comments, because this is wonderful. Wonderful, amazing, wicked, so many different adjectives to use, but amazing is the one that strikes me the most when walking through here. because I am indeed amazed by how amazing this maze of streets really is. So here we have Regina's, and luckily it doesn't seem full, so let's see if we could grab a slice. It's awe-inspiring. Awe-inspiring is that is a good term. I don't use that term for lightly. Lorene says amazing, and I concur. Wicked cool, says Janice. Yes, it is. All right, let's go into Regina's.
So how can I help you?
Hi, do you sell pizzas by the slice?
We most certainly do. Just
Okay.
cheesy pepperoni slices, sir.
Yes.
Right on the shoe.
Thank you.
All right, what can I get you?
What slices do you offer?
So just cheese or pepperoni?
I'll have one pepperoni slice, please.
Sure, may I have your first name?
Ariel.
Thank you. One slice of pepperoni coming in. 401, please, Ariel.
Awesome,
I have
thank
the
you.
pennies, don't worry. Give me an even dollar.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Kind of right at the bottom of the stairs, and we'll bring it right out in
Okay,
about 2 minutes.
perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Ariel.
All right, cool. So it's phenomenal. Indeed it is. It is really phenomenal. And look at that pizza. Whoa. All right, that looks amazing. I'm so excited for this. How much is a slice of pizza? It was $4.01. $4.01. However, they covered the 1 cent. It was just $4. So they could be $1 change. So let's see if the pizza is truly amazing. It's going to be our first taste test before we go to dessert and the 3 different cannolis. Now this opened up in 1926 by an Italian immigrant, and the oven inside, which we couldn't really get a glimpse, I think it was inside the kitchen, dates back to 1888. Now many classic pizzerias, and this is the case definitely in New York City, they have very old ovens because in these cities, since they're so densely packed and they're very susceptible to fires, and many of them have gone through very terrible fires, including Boston itself, they need to fireproof these buildings. And hence, to build a new oven is very hard. And a lot of the immigrants that came here from Italy had to buy out the places that used to already have ovens in order to even start a pizzeria or a bakery or a pastry shop. And that's why this oven is very old. Things have changed a little bit. Now there's electrical ovens that really mimic that authentic old 2-story oven. And that's why you'll see some newer places with those type of ovens. That's it. Yes, thank you so much. Have a great day. All right, so we got our pizza. And let me show you the menu. So it's not that bad. $15 for a 16-inch pie, which is a bit less expensive than New York. So let's find a place to put down the camera and try this. Actually, put it over here. Everyone, light posts are a vlogger's tripod. That was fast, yeah. It was indeed fast. Uh-oh, I lost my napkin. And I watched all your Boston tours so far from the UK, and we're really enjoying the history lessons. Oh, I'm so glad you are. I'm so glad you are. You know, I try sometimes to make these videos more structured, but oh no, I just don't like traveling too structured. And sometimes it just feels like, oh, we're better off kind of just wandering around and trying different awesome things and different slices and different like foods while we'll talk about the history. So this was from 1926, and it says the North End tradition. And here's what it says. They've been using the same dough recipe since 1926, and the cheese is aged, and they use special natural yeast. And also the sauce, they say it's light with a hint of aged Romano. So thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Bodhi. Really enjoying the mixture of history and food. And I love the box. Reminds me a whole lot of Sbarro's. Maybe Sbarro's. Oh. Uh-oh. Issues with the gimbal. Bear with me. All right, cool. All right, awesome. It reminds me a whole lot of Sbarro's. So, without further ado, let's try the pizza. Now, the interesting thing is, this is very similar to a New York slice. It basically is New York style. It's New York style. Boston, I don't think has ever developed its own style because there's not that many pizzerias. But the interesting thing is that they use aged cheese, as the box says. The recipe of dough is similar to what I covered in Roman style. So they actually process the dough for more than 24 hours. And the interesting thing is, a lot of pizzerias tend to use canned tomatoes, but from some other big company. The good ones tend to import their cans from Italian companies. The modern ones sometimes get very high quality canned tomatoes. The normal ones, the ones that are not that good, the ones that are kind of plain and basically in every corner of New York City tends to get their canned tomatoes from big main companies. This one, they actually go to California, pick their own tomatoes and can them each year. So they make their own canned tomatoes, which is very interesting. Let's try it out. Mmm. Mmm. Wow. Spicy pepperoni. The bread has appears to be semolina. Has that kind of grainy texture. The bread itself is, it's a bit mind-boggling in terms of the taste because it tastes, I gotta take another bite. It's hard to even describe. Very greasy, super greasy. I have a pool of grease waiting to drip down. Look at all that grease that dripped out. That is a whole lot of grease. Okay, very greasy, but in a good way. Mmm. So the cheese is really good. It's a little step above from the normal slice joint. A little bit step above. And the bread, as I mentioned, it's kind of like, it tastes like those very flat focaccia breads from Italy. So this was voted the #1 pizza on TripAdvisor in America. And it's been voted the #1 pizza many times in Boston. Someone just said that there's many pizzerias in Boston. Okay, I'm just talking from my personal experience. I haven't seen that many pizzerias, but I assume there might be pizzerias around. All right. Jeff asked, what's my Portnoy rating? What's my one bite rating? He's making a reference to the one bite pizza series on YouTube. All right, one bite. Everyone knows the rules. Let's try it out. Mm. I must say, this is even better than some of the touristy New York City spots. The ones that a lot of people know about. New York Pizza Suprema. It's a bit better than New York Pizza Suprema. It's basically there with Joe's Pizza. Maybe a little bit better because the cheese is a bit more creamier. I would give it a good 8.8. This is a really, really strong pizza. This is really great pizza. I am just so blown away by this pizza. You know, I didn't think, being a New Yorker, I didn't think too many other places outside of the New York City would have great New York City slices, but this is just mind-blowing. I'm gonna finish this up. And the sign looks funny behind me. Yeah, indeed. All right, let's finish this up because this is so good. I cannot leave this behind. And I was a little bit wary of coming here because they have a storefront in Quincy Market. And when I saw their pizzas in Quincy Market, to me, to be honest, it looked like Sbarro's. And I didn't feel too optimistic. G. McCarthy says, thank you for the tours from Anaheim. Oh, I can't wait to one day go to Anaheim and visit San Diego Comic-Con. Looks like I go Anaheim one day. So thank you so much for watching, G. McCarthy. Thank you so much for the super chat. G. McCarthy, and there was another person also just sponsored this pizza. Hey, how's it going? Hey, all right, this is so good. This is so good. All right, I'm going to continue eating this. Don't forget to hydrate. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So the pizza itself is very thick. It's slightly thicker than the normal slice in New York City. New York City could be floppy, so it can flop down. This one is not too floppy. It tastes more like a real good bread. I'm not entirely sure if they're using commercial products, but it tastes like a real good bread. After those kids, a lot more people are raving. Yeah, Bostonians are very happy with the camera. It's a very camera-friendly city. But the younger kids who were like walking through here, I think they were in their early 20s. They once they waved, they were like all high-fiving each other because they waved to the camera. This is a winner, everyone. Go to Regina's. Don't just grab one slice like I did. Grab 2 or 3. Or come here with a friend and grab an entire pie. Or come here alone and grab an entire pie. Or a personal pie. It's absolutely delicious. That pizza was mind-blowing. I'm really impressed. And as a New Yorker, I would accept this into the upper echelon of New York City style pizzas. So, highly recommend it, everyone. I'm going to take a swig of water, and then we're going to go to the other 2 Cannoli shops, and then visit more of the Freedom Trail. Oh, wow. So Vic says I should get another flavor to try. They only had 2 slices. It's cheese and pepperoni. So it is a slice shop. It looks like a restaurant, but you can go inside like I did and get a slice. But they have way more variety that you can choose from, including white slices and other type of specialty slices with like sausage and stuff like that. So consider sitting down in the restaurant. All right, let me put on my mask and continue walking around. Or you guys, let me know, who wants a cannoli? What type of cannoli would you like? Because we're about to go to 2 places that has a gigantic variety of cannolis. Let's go. Okay. I'm gonna throw this away. Excuse me, right behind you. Yeah. Thank you. Jeff wants a personal pan pizza. Here you can't get a personal pan pizza, but you can get a personal pizza. Pan pizzas are something you'll find in like a Pizza Hut, but also it's something you'll find in Chicago. Where is the traffic? It's changed a lot. Boston only, I remember reading, it was only about like 51% of Bostonians own a car or use it often. So it's very, very little car use here in Boston. And thus, that's why we don't see too many people using cars. Bikes, this doesn't seem to be as bike friendly as New York, just from my observation, because a lot of steep hills like we see over here. There's almost no bike paths. I barely seen bike paths as I was walking around. Does not seem as super bike friendly, especially when you compare to even European cities that are way more bike friendly. And then buses, I don't think buses pass through this neighborhood. And you don't see too many buses, period, as far as I've been walking through. I've seen trains, of course, there's a lot of train stops, but not that many bus stops. Oh, another old storefront. Look at this. So many cool old storefronts. Wow. Traffic is all underground. Yes, the traffic is also all underground right next to us. There's portions of it that is underground. Jack, are we visiting Mike's or Modern's Pastry? We're visiting both. And Orlando, am I reading the chat? Yes, I am. Hello, Orlando. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for this tour. I will be in Faneuil Hall next month. Hope they open for meals there. Faneuil Hall is open. No, Faneuil Hall doesn't have food. The one that has food is right behind Faneuil Hall. It's Quincy Market. And they are open currently. And I think they will remain to be open. Hopefully. Hopefully things continue to be okay. Here we have another old bakery. Parziales, Italian bakery. Please do Providence tour one day. Ooh, Provincetown. Yeah, Provincetown. Sounds tempting. It looks very beautiful, so maybe. So we're walking back where we came from. Jeff, who is Cam Newtown? I don't know who that person is. Improper says very narrow streets. Yep, very narrow streets. Not very conducive to driving. Not very conducive to parking or biking. If you're going to these streets that are narrow, trying to fit cars as well. So try to bike among all those obstacles. Someone else also left a super chat. Who was it? Susu. So Susu just has sponsored our next cannoli before we try all 3 cannolis. So thank you so much for sponsoring the next cannoli that we're going to do. All right, let's go. Hope I run into the Wahlbergs. Me too. It'll be nice to run into Mark. Mark Wahlberg being one of the more famous Bostonians, celebrities. First started as a rapper, as Marky Mark, and then became more well known as an actor. Another Catholic church. Oh, this is St. Leonard, which we passed earlier. Cam Newton is a quarterback. Oh, yeah. Don't know too much about sports. All right. I see Mike's nearby. Let's go to Hanover Street. Susu says, who's using my name to chat here? Oh, I don't know, Susu. Is someone else? Is there another Susu? Yep, there's a... I'm not sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Mike's Pastries. Mike's Pastries. Another very old place. Dating back to 1946 and is by far the top tourist area for pastries in this neighborhood. Let's go. I'll have a chocolate chip cannoli, please.
That's it?
That's all, yeah.
Sugar on the cannoli?
Oh, yes, please.
In a bag or a bowl?
In a bag, please.
How go we get? $4.50, please. You can just pay her at the register.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
And one espresso, yeah? Espresso no issues? Don't worry about it.
Yeah, baby. Can you say real That'll be $8.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes. Have a good day.
The peanut butter dip? Anything else?
All right, everyone. Cannoli number 2 from Mike's Pastries. Who's Mike? The guy who opened up this place. His name is, if I am pronouncing it correctly, his original name was Mike Marcangelo. Mike Marcangelo. Mercangelo. But let's go to our final stop. Let's see if I can order a coffee. Hey, can I order coffees to go?
In here or there, wherever you want.
Okay, I'll order in here. Thank you. Hi, how's it going? Yeah, I'll have a double espresso, please. Thank you. Not wiggly. It's meant to stabilize the camera.
I know, I see
Yeah.
that. Can I see?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
how much was that?
It was $99. They're getting very cheap nowadays. Oh yeah, very cheap.
Wow.
And I can like move in and it will stay pretty steady.
Where did you get it?
Amazon. It's called DJI Osmo.
Mind if I write this down?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah. DGI?
Osmo.
Like that?
AOSMO. Oh, yeah. OSMO. Yeah.
A?
Oh, OSMO. It's a bit of a tongue twister.
Oh. Look at that. That is so cool.
Oh, yeah.
Are you recording us?
Well, I'm doing a live video exploration of the neighborhood.
Am I on it?
Yes, you are.
Hi, my name is Jenny.
How's it going?
I've been working here for like 4 years.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
I am
fascinating.
not single, sorry.
Damn it, you just
But
disappointed everyone.
if I up on a show, you know, you can call me anytime.
Oh, no sugar. You just disappointed thousands of people. Do you know what's the, if I may ask, do you know what's the haunted story about upstairs?
Oh my God, yes. All right.
Oh, I would love to.
So, all right, hi, I'm Jenny again.
Thank you.
So the haunted story, I believe there was an orphanage here, right, Ever? There was an orphanage here, and the workers downstairs where they kept their liquor storage kept going into the room and hearing things until they called the Sci-Fi channel
Oh,
to
interesting.
come in and check out the place and like rate it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they found, it's actually on, if you Google it, it's on the Sci-Fi.
Oh, they have like
Stanza de Cigarre is on there.
Oh, they actually visited it here, the camera crew and
It was on an
everything.
actual show.
And what happened to the kids?
Oh, some of them, well, people back then came to, what do they do? You know, like out of wedlock, if you got pregnant,
Yeah.
and you weren't allowed to keep it, your parents would send you to live downstairs until you had the baby and no one would know.
Oh, no.
And then you kind of just went, because you had to be like a virgin when you got married.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Like, we're talking like back over 100+ years. You know?
Oh, so they stored one of the babies in the basement?
No, they used to store the poisonous needles in there. They used to murder the kids after.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's actually a really
Oh,
cool story.
And have you experienced any hauntings?
I have not.
Okay.
Unfortunately, no. But if anyone wants to come and interview me, feel free.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much again. What's your name again?
Jenny.
Jenny, thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So this is Cafe Vittoria, which is one of the most famous cafes here. And I'm now carrying a bunch of stuff, so hard to balance. So I'm not sure if you heard Jenny, but it's the oldest cafe, oldest Italian cafe in all of Boston. It's similar to what we know Cafe Reggio in New York. It started just a year after Cafe Reggio, around 1928, 1929. And apparently it's haunted. As she mentioned, Jenny, it's below they had needles in order to, unfortunately, euthanize kids who were born out of wedlock. And upstairs in the cigar room, there's been many of those hauntings. There's a longer story on it, and as she mentioned, it's actually an episode, I think, of Ghost Hunters or one of those shows on Discovery Channel. All right, let's go to Modern Pastry, our third and final cannoli. Wow, food here looks amazing. I gotta come back here.
Like they want to make sure that it's what you're.
That's so tragic, says Lori. Yeah, indeed it is. It's very tragic. Very sad story. I didn't realize it was actually that sad story. Oh, there it is. Modern Pastry. Here it is. Oh. Some Boston drivers tend to be very nice and they'll let you pass if you're crossing when it's not your turn. All right, let's go to Modern Pastry for a final stop. Cool. Wow, another classic black and white. Oh. And whoopie pies as well. a chocolate chip cannoli and a whoopie pie, please. A chocolate chip cannoli and a whoopie pie. That's all. Oh. I have some sugar on mine as well. Powdered sugar. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day. Ooh, sorry. Thanks. Okay. All right. So we got everything we need. Third cannoli, plus 2 bonus treats. Barnabas, please wave some of the pastry smells into the mic. Okay, we'll do. But we gotta go to our seating location first. Which, you know what? Let's do it by the Paul Revere statue. Yeah. I don't think we should be too far. Oh, we are. Okay. Don't seem to be friendly. No, Modern Pastry was the least friendly of the two other places. Yeah, not friendly at all for Modern Pastry. But let's see if the cannoli is different. In Hawaii, we almost always say hi. Boston has been a very friendly city, so don't let that fool kind of deceive you in showing you that Boston isn't friendly. Boston is actually very friendly. It's just it was that particular person not so friendly. Okay, we're back to where we started. So we've done like a massive circle just to get a bunch of gigantic cannolis, and then we're gonna go to the back on the Freedom Trail. But of course, when we are in the Freedom Trail, we need some energy, and you cannot get freedom with some good sugar, cheese, and flour products. That's the true way to live a revolution. So right in front. here we are. Cool. Back to where we started. Paul Revere's house. Yeah, we're at Paul Revere's house. I wouldn't consider that a mansion. I would consider that just the normal house. Yeah, it's not that big. Am I going to talk about the Big Dig? I'll mention it. I think maybe not in this broadcast. I might do an additional one after this. All right, first let me try the coffee, which is already getting a little bit cold. So this is the coffee from Cafe Vittoria. And it's very good classic Italian coffee. A little bit more on the acidic end, so it's not like, I would not put it high end. I would put it, I would say it's a good normal Italian cup of coffee. Not super impressive, but normal type of Italian coffee. But without further ado, let's try all these pastries. And actually, I think I might sit down for this because this is going to be a crazy experience. So here we are. Okay, perfect. Thank God for Boston and its public infrastructure, making it very easy for me to live stream. Okay, perfect. I can't believe he held out and didn't eat anything. All right. Okay, how's the crema? I can't really tell because I got this coffee about 5 minutes ago. So it strikes me as it didn't have strong enough crema. But it doesn't taste bad. It just tastes normal. I would give it like a 6 out of 10 for the coffee. Good enough for an old school Italian place. So now, 3 pastries. Mike's, Modern Pastry, and Bova's. Mike's, touristy. Modern, kind of mixed. Bova's, a locals joint. But before we go into any of these 3, let's try the 2 bonus ones, because as I mentioned before, it's very rare to find black and white cookies that are done in that classic style. Black and white isn't Italian. It's not Bostonian. It's a New York Jewish baked good. But most of them are now made with fondant, which is kind of lazy in my opinion for a black and white cookie, and this is done as the classic recipe. So John gives a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, John. And if anyone gave like a PayPal or Facebook stars, please let me know. I would love to give you a shout out. So here's the cookie. I'm going to try a little bites of each because I'm not going to finish all of this. First of all, John just sponsored the cannoli and the coffee, one of the cannolis and the coffee. Thank you so much, John. Look at that. And Susu gave an extra $9.99. Thank you, Susu. You also sponsored the coffee and the cannoli and this black and white cookie. Let's try it out. So it's not quite a cookie. It's a cake. It's a shortbread cake. In New York, the classic recipe is just a bit more cookie-like. But the interesting thing about a black and white cookie, it's supposed to be right in the middle between the shortbread and a cake. Between a shortbread cake and a cookie. So this one tends to go a little bit more cakey. But that frosting, oh my God. And I like the cakiness of it. It tastes like a great cake in the form of a cookie. Really, really good black and white cookie. This is something I have not found in New York. I have not found in New York. So, who knew that in Boston I would find the best black and white cookie? Who knew? Wow. Okay. Now next to the whoopie pie. So someone earlier asked, "What is whoopie pie?" And why did I end up getting it? We're in Boston. Why get a whoopie pie? Isn't that from like Hostess? And black and white cookies are the best. Indeed, they are. Hello, B. Griffin. Where's the Jewish bakery? I did not see a Jewish bakery here so far. This was an Italian bakery. They just made a black and white cookie. So let's try the whoopie pie. And I got the whoopie pie for one specific reason. But I gotta untangle this string first. This is what makes getting baked goods very frustrating, because you just want to eat it entirely, and they put the string in order to preserve the baked goods. But if you're eating it to go, I just want to get in there as quick as possible. So why did I get a whoopie pie? Is it Bostonian? No. Is it some weird American treat that is very commercial? At least what most people know it as, yeah. Hostess made the whoopie pie popular. But Hostess doesn't do a good whoopie pie. Of course, it's a commercial product. It's good in its commercial way. But this is a New England treat. And Boston and Massachusetts is part of the region of the U.S. known as New England. Whoopie pies come from a state that used to be part of the state of Massachusetts, Maine. I actually went back to Maine a few years ago and absolutely loved it. And I love their whoopie pie. But since we are here in Boston, and if you're coming from other parts of the world, you might not be able to have enough time to go to Maine, or have enough time to go to Vermont or New Hampshire. So I encourage you to try the pastries, this pastry that is a classic Maine pastry here in Boston, which is, I think, close enough. So let's try this out. This one is gonna get very messy. Whoa. So it sticks to your hands. Well, look at that. It's 2 chocolate cakes with a bunch of cream in the middle. And I'm not entirely sure what the cream is. So if anyone knows exactly what the cream is, let me know. Let's try it out. Mmm. 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 This is bringing me back to my childhood. When I was a little kid, I didn't like too much like the chocolate bars, but I loved the Hostess cakes. And the Hostess cakes, my favorite one was the whoopie pie, and my second favorite was the Devil's Food Cake. And the Devil's Food Cake is basically just a long whoopie pie. And this is so delicious. It's different from Hostess. It's not as sweet, which is good. The cake is way more moist and cooler. The cream is very creamy. It doesn't taste like a typical Italian cream. Really good whoopie pie. One more bite. I'm 6 years old again, eating this whoopie pie. I feel like I'm on lunch break in 2nd grade, excited to just finish my terrible beef patty that they used to serve us in public school and get to the good whoopie pie from Hostess Cakes. Wow, I gotta take one more bite. I'm gonna be full, but I'm gonna take one more bite. This is too good. Wow. All right, Modern Pastry. Get that whoopie pie from Modern Pastry. You won't regret it. You will not regret it. I gotta clean my hands first before I continue. You won't regret that whoopie pie. I had a whoopie pie a few times, so yummy. It makes you feel like a kid again, says Alex. Yeah. And LOL says bookish. And save some room for the burger company. Oh, what's the burger company? Is a famous burger joint here in Boston? Let me know. And the filling is like a marshmallow cream. Yeah. Okay, that's a good way of putting it. Thank you. And is the cream fluffy? The cream is very fluffy. Very fluffy. Not like whipped cream, which is kind of, when it goes into your mouth, it just goes flat. And I just realized, we're talking about sweets. And many of these sweets used to be made, some of them, with molasses. This neighborhood, many decades ago, was covered in molasses. And I don't mean metaphorically. I mean literally. But before we get to that story, we're going to have some cannolis. So first cannoli. This is the cannoli from Modern Pastry. I am going to do just one bite for each of them because otherwise I'm going to get grossly full for the Freedom Trail. And very red because I get red whenever I have dairy. And it's not, and there's sun, so I think it won't be a pretty sight for anyone if I eat too much cannoli. So one bite per cannoli, but one big bite. First, Modern Pastry. Wow. Very homemade. The cookie is very layered. Of course, classic chocolate chip. But the cheese inside is ricotta mixed with sugar. And it's really delicious. Okay, I'm really enjoying that. So, Modern Pastry, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Now to the next one. That's a cannoli, yes. What's the famous saying? You can take something but leave the cannolis. I think it's from The Godfather. Please remind me. It's ricotta and mascarpone, says Stephanie. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. And holy smoke, a feast. I'll totally help you with leftovers. I think I might need help with leftovers here. Number 2, Mike's Pastries. The touristy one. Let's try it out. By all means, this is also, locals might also really enjoy Mike's, but it is always in all the tourist books. Now, the look of this looks a little bit more commercial than modern. Let's see. This one's odd. It tastes like a commercial cannoli. immediately biting off into Modern Pastry, it felt like a homemade cannoli. If I were Italian, I'd feel like it was my nonna making it. I'm not Italian, so I didn't have a nonna making cannolis, but that's how it felt like. It felt like I'm back in the old country. This one, I feel like I'm eating Hostess or a supermarket cannoli. It's not as bad. It's just a little bit better, but it has more supermarket vibes than homemade nonna vibes. Let's see Bova's. So Mike's, it might not be so much a tourist hotspot. It might be more a tourist trap. Bova's. You heard the crunch. The crunch was thicker with Modern Pastry. There was a more, just a crunch. This one was like, eh. Let's try our final one. Actually, let me clean my palate. Hello, Domardo. Welcome from the Philippines. Thank you so much for tuning in. How much were they? Each of them were about anywhere between $3 and $5. I think Mike's was the most expensive at $5. Modern was like $3.50. And this one, I think, was the least expensive. It was like at $2.50. So now Bova's, the local hotspot. This is what locals tend to say, at least from what I've researched through news articles and YouTube videos. This is what locals recommend, Bova. Let's try Bova. Without chocolate chip. But we'll get the same idea because chocolate chip is only on the sides. For this, I will leave the gun and keep the cannoli. Wow. Oh, wow. This is not only bringing me back to the old country, I am literally transported to Nana's, my non-existent Italian Nana's kitchen. 6 years old. My alternate reality where I was an Italian-American kid growing up in Boston's North End, making cannolis with my Nana. This is what I feel right now. Oh, wow. It's not as sweet. Mike's, sugar, plain. Modern Pastry, sweet, strong, has a nice kind of kick to it. But this tastes like fresh out of a grandmother cooking it. Like this is classic. This is not even a cannoli. This is a cannolo. This is an amazing cannoli. The cookie has this slight toastedness to it, as opposed to Modern Pastry. That is the cookie is very good as well. It's a bit thicker. But this has a nice toastedness to the cookie. Look how kind of toasty this cookie is. Whew. One more bite. What's the flavor on the ricotta? The ricotta, this one tastes really more focused on the ricotta than sugar or mascarpone. Mike's tastes like something from a can. Modern Pastry is a bit sweeter. Modern Pastry, the filling is sweeter. This one tastes more ricotta. Oh, cue the Verdi music. That epic opera. Cue the Barbers of Seville by Rossini. Because this is how I feel right now, biting into this Bova. Okay, everyone. So we just had a live experience of trying 3 different cannolis. Someone left a big super chat from a foreign country. Let me see who that was. And you can see I'm already getting red. I am a little bit lactose intolerant. Not heavily, luckily. Irene gave Chilean 13,900. Thank you so much. I don't know the conversion, but I assume that's around like maybe $5 to $10 or $20. I'm not sure of the conversion, but I really do appreciate Irene. Thank you so much for the super chat. So Irene just sponsored the cannolis as well, and Liam, thank you so much for $1.99. You're sponsoring part of the coffee. 15 USD. Thank you so much, Irene, for the 15 USD. And you're making me way too hungry. Put the fake cannoli in the trash. I think, yeah. I think. So, what's the best 3 of the cannolis? Mike's? 1 down. We're between Modern Pastry and Bova. I think it's quite self-evident. Modern Pastry is delicious. It's a great whoopie pie as well. They were really unfriendly, but the pastry itself is very friendly to the taste buds. But Bova is the stuff that dreams are made of. Bova will make you feel like an authentic Italian American. Bova will show you why Italian American food has taken over the world, to the point where we know all about pizza, we know about a bunch of Italian pastries. Bova is an icon. So Bova takes the cannoli. That's it. I'm getting emotional because Bova was so good. It was so good. So good. Such a great cannoli. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that food. Kim says this guy is so lucky he can eat all this food in America. Hey, I've been to Hungary. At least I've been to Budapest. And I love the food at Budapest. So I'd say don't underestimate your country. I've been to Budapest and I really love the food in Budapest. You might be from somewhere else in Hungary, but Budapest has great food. Great food is everywhere. Sometimes you just gotta look a little bit harder. Jordan gives a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Jordan. Jordan is and probably unfriendly due to the camera. Maybe, but they weren't so talkative to the other customers. So I don't think the camera was the main issue. I might have added, but they didn't seem too friendly to the other customers. Mike's past 10, yeah. So I'm about to go to a sugar shock. No, I'm okay with sugar. I'm just slightly lactose intolerant, so I get a little bit red and stuffy when I eat lots of dairy. Okay, everyone. Go to Bova's, by far the best, and also their black and white cookie is delicious. Let me get set up to finish our walk through Little Italy to learn about an event that, despite it leaving a sweet substance all around this neighborhood, wasn't really a sweet experience. Let's go to the Boston Massacre. Loud blue jay. Yeah, there's a blue jay nearby. That's so cool. I love blue jays. I gotta drink a little more water. Thank you, Ariel, for the yummy food. I'm so glad so many people enjoyed that food. Whoa. A lot of people enjoy covering the food. as a creator, someone who does a lot of live streaming, initially I would think, who wants to see a guy eat food while walking around? You know, what's the point of that? But I myself find myself watching food vlogs, and they end up being very kind of important. Food is such a crucial part to traveling, especially the way I like to travel. I like having great food on my way, and I don't want to think too much about where I'm going to have a bite. I just want to see a few videos on YouTube, maybe read a few articles, and know where I want to go. And see Bova and be like, yeah, I'm going back to the old country by eating a good cannoli at Bova. Me too. And what's the favorite pastry of the three? Bova's cannoli, 100%. That whoopie pie from Modern Pastry is really good as well. Be right back. Let me throw away the rest. And you came through with Amy Ruth's and Stumptown. Oh, yeah. I'm so glad you had Stumptown and Amy Ruth's. Let me put on my mask. So now I'm a bit stuffy from all the dairy, so I'm now going to sound even more New Yorker, ironically, being here in Boston. Because the stereotype is, you know, a lot of New Yorkers, like Ray Romano, you have Woody Allen, all these classic New York actors always talk from the nose. Chris says, Chris, another one. You need more color in your shorts. Anyway, actually, I think you've got that covered. Oh, what do you mean? In my shirts. Oh, in my shirts, not shorts. I'm not wearing shorts. So Chris, before I continue walking, let me highlight Chris. He gave a super chat of $4.99. He says that the last cannoli reminds me of my Italian grandmother, although she would never go out for food. I feel you. You know, my grandparents, when they were alive, weren't really big fans of eating out either. They just preferred to eat at home. And my family as well, whenever we traveled, we really didn't focus too much on the food. But when I travel on my own or travel with friends, it's all about the food. So Dustin says, let's hear my Boston accent. I will not do a Boston accent. I don't want to park the car and have a yard because there's very little parking in Harvard Yard. So I'm not going to do a Boston accent. All right, back on the Freedom Trail, everyone. And we're in for a walk, which is good because we ate a bunch of cannolis. Improper Bostonian says, please don't. I won't Improper Bostonian. I will not do the Boston accent. My grandmother will always say, says Chris, I can make it better. That's funny. That's funny. All right. Fun fact, Revere's cookware is still made today. Oh, really? Interesting. I didn't know that. Well, that's awesome. Oh, let me remove this super chat. All right, cool. Yep, we got to burn those calories off. Indeed we do. We're back. Where's the Freedom Trail? Where'd they go? Okay, so we got to go this way. Behind this family. And before they pass. Excuse me, I got to pass over here. Thank you. So Merck says, when you go into bar, tak ya ka and have a yard and give the guy a quarter for a cup of clam chowder. Oh, Merc, I think you're missing a few letters in your comment. That cannot possibly be on purpose. Shout out to all the New York YouTubers, says Liam. Dustin says, enjoyed the tour. We'll watch later. Enjoy the trail. Thank you so much for watching, Dustin. So glad you loved my coffee recommendations. I hope you guys enjoy New York City again as you go. They took the whole street for restaurants. Yeah, they did. Merck says, those of us originally from Brooklyn love to have a good laugh at Boston's expense. Well, the Brooklyn accent is also a very strong accent. So we still gotta make a song for the Freedom Trail. If anyone is a lyricists out there, please let us know if you have a song for the Freedom Trail. This has to be pretty catchy. What's the temperature here? About 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Have I toured the Boston Common Zone? No. The Combat Zone? No, not yet. Great topic for one of your 15-minute documentaries. Ooh, I'll look into it. Thank you so much for the recommendation. Am I going to the Big Dig, Adam? Maybe later today, so stay tuned. Not for this particular video, but maybe later today. Merck says, confession, I've been living in Minnesota for 33 years, and I still sound like I'm on the streets of Brooklyn. Oh, that's awesome. So here is the great statue of Paul Revere himself. Before we partook in a bunch of cannolis, we talked about Paul Revere, the coppersmith, who had a whopping 16 children and was an American hero. Now, he ended up becoming famous for the Midnight Ride, even though he was accompanied by two other men, William Dawes and Prescott. So William Prescott and Samuel Dawes were the two men. However, those two men will be forgotten in history because a man by the name of Henry Wadsworth ended up writing a very famous poem called The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. And here is the poem, Paul Revere's Ride. And let's read a little bit of it. Listen, my children, and you hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive. Who remembers the famous day and famous year? He said to his friend, if the British march by land or sea from town to night, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower, which is this one right here. Let me... Oh, it's going to be hard to get a look. It's too bright. Okay, there we go. One if by sea, one if by land, and two if by sea. And I, on the opposite ashore, will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up in arms. So very, very famous poem. Basically every kid in school reads it in the US. And what was this ride all about? Well, actually, let me show you a depiction of Paul Revere's ride. He was actually accompanied by two other men, as I mentioned. And Wadsworth picked Revere more so because it was a good rhyme. Especially during that time, when you think about how much a poem is more worth than a dime, it's a little bit easier to rhyme with something like Revere. And he had no fear. However, what if he ended up telling all the kids in this poem, hey kids, take a pause, because tonight we're going to talk about William Dawes, Samuel Dawes. Then Samuel Dawes would have been the famous guy on this statue and not Paul Revere. Maybe, at least. Well, the British were going to Lexington because they found out that the rebels, who were run by the Sons of Liberty, Samuel Adams being the top honcho, they were storing weapons in that town close to Boston. It was about a 3-hour journey by sea, which is through the Charles River, and about a 6-hour journey by foot, if you march pretty quickly. They knew that the British were coming, and they wanted to alert the men at Lexington so they can be prepared and fight the British off. Because if the British attacked those Minutemen without them realizing, we would never had an American Revolution because our initial arms would be non-existent. Or maybe the French would have intervened and this could have been a very different country. Could have just been another French state. Who knows? However, Paul Revere ended up getting on that ride along with Dawes and Prescott and ended up warning Lexington and also the city of Concord about the imminent invasion of the British. According to lore, people say that Paul Revere was chanting, "The British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming." However, he was also British. Everyone in this colony was basically British. The Puritans were British. So they didn't really call the British British. They called them the regulars. So he most likely was chanting, "The regulars are coming," or the redcoats, because they tend to wear red coats. Paul Revere's Ride is a good book that if you want to know the whole history of the tale. Yes, B. Griffin, do let us know if you know any other cool facts about his ride. So there's one little other thing. First, this ride doesn't depict the other two men. But second, Paul Revere himself. Does this man look like Jack Black to you? No. He's very handsome. In this depiction, he looks a little bit more like Justin Timberlake. Oh no, he has a little bit of a different face. He looks a little bit more like that very tall actor from Social Network, Armie Hammer. It's a little bit more Armie Hammer than Jack Black. This was Paul Revere, as I mentioned him before, and people were saying he looks like Jack Black. They decided to make him significantly more handsome and also significantly more skinnier. Paul Revere was actually a pretty stubby man. So history, you know, people say that statues are a great resource of learning history. Well, as we evidenced by the Harvard University statue as well, they're not always the best resource to learn definitive history. And who designed this statue? It was one of the famous architects. Let me find him here.
Oh, you want to see
Right here.
Okay.
Right here. There we go. Was Paul British or... Oh, great question. Was Paul British or English? So British is a term that is attributed usually to people of the entire island. Scottish, Welsh, English. Or English is just England. He was actually neither. He was born here, but his parents were French Huguenots. Hence why he has the last name Revere, which would be pronounced differently in French. Let me know how would the French pronunciation be. There was actually a lot of Americans that came here from France who were exiled French Huguenots. So just like the Puritans There were Protestants who left here and came to the U.S. So that's why we have some French-sounding last names. I covered a video before of a structural engineer who built the skyscraper in New York City that almost fell down, and his last name is Lemessurier. And a lot of people say I'm mispronouncing it because they think it's a French name. The guy is American. You know, you don't pronounce Paul Revere as Paul Revere, or I'm not sure what the French pronunciation would be. Mark Ruffalo could play Paul Revere. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You are right. Either Jack Black or Mark Ruffalo. Jack Black or Mark Ruffalo. Riwa. Oh, thank you so much, B. Griffin. So it's around Riwa would be the French pronunciation. No one really pronounces it that way. Jack would be best. Yeah, he really looks like a Jack Black to me, and I would be really keen on seeing Jack Black be a founding father and riding a horse. I think it would be a really fun time. So in that case, who should play his best bud? Samuel Adams, who was the head honcho for the revolutionaries storing weapons. Let me know who should be Samuel Adams. Now, remember, Samuel Adams is very well dressed here, but he was notoriously a terrible dresser. Improper Bostonian. No, today we're going through to the Freedom Trail. So, not right now for this video. We're going to the Greenway. He does look like Jack Black. Yes, he does. He really does. Says Liz, yeah. Thought there would have been considerable regional variation of pronunciation of French back then. Yeah, that too. So this is Paul Revere's mall. Not for shopping, but for commemoration. Dustin Hoffman could be a good Samuel Adams. Interesting choice. He's a bit short for Samuel Adams, I think. He has an Airbnb he'll reveal at the end. Yeah, I do have an Airbnb. I'll show everyone where I'm staying at the end of my trip. Benedict Cumberbatch. Oh, yeah. If he gains a little bit of weight, Samuel Adams, Benedict Cumberbatch could be a very interesting Samuel Adams. He just has to gain a lot of weight. Giamatti would be a good Revere as well, yes. He already played John Adams in the eventual cinematic universe of the Founding Fathers. Here's the Paul Revere Mall. It says established in 1933 for the income of the George Robert White Fund, bequeathed to the city of Boston for creating works of public utility and beauty, dedicated to the enjoyment of the community and to the memory of those men and women of the North End who helped to make Boston the pride of later generations. So, Paul Giamatti already paid John Adams, and I loved that TV series. Let me know, have you watched the John Adams miniseries? One of the best miniseries about the American Revolution, I think. One of the best cinema experiences, filmed experiences of that revolution. Great show. I think there should be a cinematic universe where we have Paul Giamatti reprising his role as John Adams, and we have that same actor for George Washington because he was perfect. He was also a very popular actor in his own right. And we have Lin-Manuel Miranda reprising his role as Hamilton. And we need Jack Black as Paul Revere. And of course, Samuel Adams. And then we make videos, they're movies of each of these founding fathers, and then they reunite for the eventual American Revolution movie. Wouldn't that be so awesome? Come on. It shouldn't only be with superheroes, this type of movies. Let me know what you think. I love that the leaves are already falling. And the branches too. So, falling leaves is nice. Fallen branches? Well, that's another thing. David said, I finally sat down and watched it. Lori says, Jim Carrey would make a good Samuel Adams. Interesting. Interesting. Liz says I should pitch it to Lin-Manuel Miranda, this eventual cinematic universe of the Founding Fathers. Let me know what other Founding Fathers should be played by a famous actor. We have a few other Founding Fathers. Ben Franklin is another one. He was already played by an amazing actor in John Adams. I forgot his name. I think his name is Tom Wilkinson. De Niro has Sam Adams. that is a very inspired choice. Any famous trees here? There is a famous tree. There should be a few. I don't know where they are. So let's continue going down this way. Sean Penn is an excellent choice. Sean Penn definitely could be some founding father. I don't think Sam Adams. He has to be one of the older ones. Is the Liberty Tree nearby? Oh, I don't know. Boston, I don't know too much off the top of my head, so I don't know where everything is. But that's a good question. Let me know in the comments. What is this? Look at this tiny little park. So charming. Charter Street Park. Wow. I'm going to say it again, everyone. This is amazing. Oh, this is a fountain. So someone asked about, who was it? Stephanie, is this original cobblestone? We're going to see actual cobblestone. This is what is called Belgian blocks, the same that we see in New York. Belgian blocks are formed. They are formed. They're carved. So in order to make them into blocks. Cobblestones are not. They're all naturally rounded, usually rounded rocks. And I think at some point in this journey, we will see some cobblestone somewhere soon. Wow, this is just magical. Wow. There's even a bench. Oh my God, everyone. Let's test this bench. We're gonna see how good this bench is. It's right in front of what seems to be a dog park, but no dogs. Okay, we're gonna test this bench. Benches are meant to be sit on, and this one is very charming because it's right in a beautiful park. All right, let's see how this bench is. Oh yeah, this is a good bench. Oh yeah. I have like an armrest. It's perfectly leveled, so I'm not like awkwardly too high or awkwardly too low. Oh yeah, this is a good bench. Recommend this bench in the Charters Street Park. This bench gets a good recommendation for me. I gotta grab some water, so bear with me. I feel the peace, me too. Me too. It's very tranquil. Oh, yes, it is. Those stones and cobble save $1,000 on maintenance. Yeah. Concrete and asphalt is not the best. Belgian blocks is the best. Cobblestones is a bit hard to walk on and very noisy, but it's very charming as well. Agnes sends a virtual hug. Oh, thank you so much, Agnes. Irene saying I'm a bench tester. Oh, yes. Here on Urbanist, we test benches. And look at these old lampposts. I wish the trees and the bricks could talk. And I wish the benches too. Because they all have a lot of stories. Was this urban oasis part of the street plan? Great question, Lori. I don't know for sure. However, Boston, this area of Boston's North End predates any type of street planning. The entire historical area doesn't have too much street planning. So these buildings were built kind of in a mishmash pattern, and most of them were built according to the layout of the land. So they built according to the terrain around them. Thus, whenever you see a tiny little park like this surrounded by houses, it has to be planned, I think, initially for them to make some type of park around the houses. Especially when you see row houses like these. If New York history is any indicator, which I've covered many times before, the likes of Gramercy Park, whenever you see a park encircled by row houses, it most likely could have been one developer who decided, I'm going to up the value by building a little park or making the street into a little park in the middle. Oh, and it leads to an alleyway. What? My local pub in England was built in the year 1296, says Paul. Yeah, Paul. yeah. Things are much older in Europe. I went to Rome last year, and we went into buildings that were 2,000 years old. So, yeah, things are older in Europe. Boston is old for America standards. Agnes, thank you so much for the hugs. All right, let's go find our way back to the North Church, to the front. Nice find. Yes, it is. Yeah, Boston dates back to 1630. And we're going to go to the the oldest neighborhood of Boston very soon. Seven people are watching on Facebook. Oh, cool. Awesome. YouTube is showing my videos more to more people. I'm not sure what happened to Facebook. Not that many people watch anymore on Facebook. Okay, I feel like I'm going some super long way. I guess we're gonna take the scenic route. Debbie watches on Facebook. Ariel, any word on the Mokum Shalom Cemetery? Sally, yes. I'll see if I can visit it in 2 weeks. Stay tuned. Oh yes, I passed it. What did I pass? Let me know. Oh, okay, yes. We're getting to exactly the place we want to get to before we go. Well, actually, we have a staircase that goes down here. Okay, so we're gonna go up here first, and then we're gonna go a little bit down here. There's a rather mysterious plaque. So, but we gotta walk up through here first. Well, Seth says there's a wrong way. No, we're definitely going back down. There's something very important a little bit further down. But first, let's go up the stairs. Actually, it's better to follow the Freedom Trail. Okay. Everyone, this is rather spontaneous because we're zigzagging around. I didn't plan any route ahead of time. So we can get back on the Freedom Trail. I'm gonna leave this stop after we visit some plaque over here. So stay tuned for one of the most interesting burial grounds. But before we go to the burial ground, as we're walking through, imagine a gigantic tank in the distance. How did it look like? Well, let me show you right now. You should go to Roanoke. Oh, I'm a little bit creeped out by going to Roanoke. It's a very scary story. This is what this view used to look like back in 1919. There used to be a 2.3 million gallon tank here in Boston's North End. And this tank was really tall, 50 feet tall, 90 feet wide. But where is it? Don't see any tank here. Well, something terrible happened on that fateful day. And let's see if we can find the plaque. And cross the street safely. See if I can find the plaque. It might have been on the waterfront and they're fixing it. Yeah, it's in the waterfront and they're fixing it. So it should be here, but I don't think we can enter. Yeah, I'm not sure if we can see it from here. Yeah. So we can't see here. This is a site where we're not gonna have any main marker. There used to be a plaque, but it seems that they're fixing this area. So I'll just go across the street and tell you about this story. And our final stop is going to be that obelisk over there. Let me zoom in. Which should be like in an hour or a little bit less, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. This is gonna be a long stream. (1919). World War I was had already ended, but during World War I, they had a massive need for alcohol. That alcohol was used to make explosives. Those explosives needed ethanol, and ethanol was produced by a substance that was taken from sugarcane in the Caribbean. And because of the Spanish-American War, the Americans had a lot of new assets when it came to sugarcane. They had the colony of Puerto Rico, my homeland, where they got a lot of sugar. They also had access to Hawaii, and they had access to Cuba, especially before there was that revolution. And that, when you heat up the sugar, you end up making molasses. And when you combine molasses with yeast, you end up getting ethanol, alcohol. You also end up getting methanol, which is highly poisonous. And if you drink it, you go blind. And this ties into Prohibition. 1920s, the U.S. was getting out of World War II and moving to Prohibition. There was a company, Industrial Alcohol, that was making tons of molasses. And there's actually a lot of people walking here. Let me put on my mask. Or let me go a little bit further up. There was a lot of need for alcohol, large amounts of alcohol. And the World War I was already ended, so no need for explosives. And Prohibition was about to come into full swing. So Industrial Alcohol suddenly made a bunch of alcohol and had no way to sell it. And they had to quickly get out that alcohol before Prohibition kicked in. There was one U.S. state that was about to finish off outlawing alcohol across all the 50 states. Thus, a huge tank needed to be built in order to store 2.3 million gallons of molasses. Now, molasses, if you don't know how it looks like, it's like a very thick substance. It used to be very much more common to use it for baking. It's used for like hookah whenever you smoke water pipe tobacco. It's mixed with molasses. A bunch of old school sweets were made with molasses. Maybe the old Italian grandmothers in the North End used to use molasses to make their cannolis. Now that would be fine. There's a huge tank of molasses. However, they quickly built this tank because they had to get the molasses in and try to start selling it. So they didn't even plan and they didn't even test the tank. The tank was 50 feet tall, so a huge marker on the city skyline. But then, it was a very cold winter, like most Boston winters, which are freezing. However, on that day in January, it ended up being a really, really warm day. People were going out on the streets, hanging out, really having fun. They were enjoying the sights. The North End was vibrant. Similar to what we saw today, but imagine 4 or 5 times the amount of people, kids playing in the streets. Everyone was enjoying what here in the US we call an Indian summer, which is a very hot day in winter. Well, people started hearing huge groans, but this wasn't nothing new because they've been hearing these groans for months ever since the tank was built. Little kids were gathering around the tank, poking sticks on the syrupy substance that was on the floor. That substance was molasses. But it was nothing new as well because the kids had been collecting molasses for many weeks since the tank was built. Even old Italian nonnas used to collect the molasses and take it back home. Thus they had free molasses because the tank was leaking. The tank was groaning. However, it was a hot day. And suddenly that tank that was packed to the very brim had too much pressure because it went from very cold, and if you have very cold molasses, it's extremely syrupy and thick, to a much higher degree of heat. So the molasses starts expanding, and it's expanding. And I'm having bad signal. Uh-oh. Why is there bad signal? Okay. The machine gun sounds were the rivets on the tank suddenly exploding out. And then suddenly, hey, how's it going? Do you guys know about the Molasses Flood? You ever heard of it? You did? Yeah, it is a crazy story. Have a good day. Suddenly those machine gun, those rivets start exploding out, out, out. And then the groans get much, much thicker. And I was waving to the two people who are sitting out there, and they know about the flood because Bostonians know about this. And then boom, a gigantic bang heard all around Boston. People thought, oh, maybe it's an attack, but World War I is already done. Maybe it was some type of bomb. That wasn't actually unprecedented because there was Italian anarchists. They already unleashed a few bombs in Boston the previous year. There was also a major bomb in New York City as well. So maybe it was that. But then people found out it wasn't that, because suddenly a huge 120-foot wave of molasses was heading straight to them. A tsunami of molasses was running across this neighborhood into the neighborhood of the North End, destroying everything in its path. In its wave of destruction, it demolished a train. It demolished a train track. A train was actually heading in full steam, and suddenly the engineer popped out and noticed that something was wrong. He heard the noises and the groans and the devastation, and he stopped the train as quickly as he could. Luckily, very few people were injured on the train. Men, the day after, were digging people out of the molasses. Here's the train tracks, completely devastated. The Molasses Flood, the Molasses tsunami was so strong they actually demolished these metal, steel train tracks, crushing them. And this is not a joke. This is not a hoax. This is not a conspiracy. This is all real history. There was an actual tsunami of molasses. Here's another photo, just so people don't think I'm making this up. Here's people rescuing people who are buried deep into the molasses. Houses were completely taken off their foundations. There was a firehouse nearby, and that firehouse was actually taken completely off its foundations, dragged a few dozen feet away to another block. There was a few firefighters in there. Only one of them survived. The news report immediately claimed that a few people were dead. Huge molasses tank exploded in North End, 11 dead and 50 hurt. However, as they kept digging through the molasses, they found more dead bodies. Dead horses, dead animals. It was all a big, huge devastation. Over 20 people died. 50 more were injured in that huge molasses flood. But why was it so dangerous? I mean, there's been tsunamis before, and there's been some terrible tsunamis, of course, but there's been tsunamis of a similar size. They're not that big, it's just a huge wave. And maybe 5 people die? Why was the devastation so big? Here's the area of the devastation. Let me show it to you. It affected this entire area of the North End, so everything around us. And luckily, this area is elevated, so it wasn't as hard hit, but it was hit all around here. And now it's empty, now it's a beautiful park. But this used to be filled with a bunch of docks and ports and commercial buildings. Well, experiment with this. Take a toothpaste And remember, whenever you're using toothpaste, I think most people here watching use this toothpaste, or at least has at some point, and you're pumping out the toothpaste, right? And it comes out nice and soft. But sometimes you're kind of struggling to get that final toothpaste out in the end, and then poof, you try to take it out, and then it just explodes. It explodes onto your toothbrush, leaving a mess on your sink. That's the same thing with molasses. It has the same viscosity, which is what is called in fluid dynamics. It's very thick and sludgy. And if you apply too much pressure at first, it moves slow. But if you apply enough pressure, it just goes much higher rate and much more stronger force than water. And hence, that's why the devastation was so bad with this molasses flood. So, yep, molasses killed 20 people. It was a gigantic disaster where people for many decades afterwards smelled molasses on the streets, especially on hot days. They would smell that sticky molasses. It was a normal thing in this neighborhood for many decades afterwards. It was over $100 million in damages. But ultimately, who was responsible? Why did it explode? Well, at first, people literally thought it was the Italian anarchists. End up escalating so much that they end up, well, not directly related to this event, but Italian anarchists in general, Scotto and Vincenzi, I forgot his name, Vicenti, Scotto and Vicenti, I think were their two names. They were executed. It wasn't Italian anarchists. It was the company and their gross misestimation and miscalculation and oversight of the building of this tank. Architects and engineers used to not need to sign off on projects. There was very little regulation on buildings before then, as we know with the huge Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in New York City just a few years before this incident. There wasn't that much oversight. The government, the federal government, jumped in and they ruled that we needed more oversight, more regulation in order to avoid this negligence. And it was criminal negligence. The company only ended up paying what would be equivalent of today's money, $8 million, which is very little, despite all the devastation around here. However, in a way, since it was winter, Boston dodged another bullet. Because if this accident happened in a humid summer, molasses is sweet. Molasses attracts pests if left out. Roaches, ants, and rats. If this would have happened in the middle of a humid summer, they calculate that this could have been infested with millions of rats. Millions of roaches, or potentially billions of them. Because it was winter, the smell of molasses lingered, but luckily it wasn't so heavily infested. However, they still found molasses in the bottom of the basements all around here. And to this day, there still might be hardened molasses. And since it was winter, that molasses would harden in of itself. And they had to use chisels and huge sledgehammers in order to break out the molasses. Some horses were actually stuck in the initial flood, and since they were so stuck and immersed in the molasses, they had to euthanize them. So the 20 bodies that were found, they were nearly unrecognizable. Their entire body was covered in that sludge. Their eyes were covered in it, their mouths. They couldn't determine who it was, especially once it hardened. It was like a fossilized person. It goes to show that disasters can come in many shapes or forms. But now, let's go to another disaster, not caused by molasses and not caused by criminal negligence from a company, but caused by a war, the Bombardment of Charleston. Let's go up there. horrible death, those poor animals. Is molasses like syrup? Yes. Molasses is a little bit thicker than syrup. Molasses is a little bit thicker also than honey. You're walking on Cliff Calvin's Mall route. Oh, cool. Interesting. You should do a video on the Battle of Brooklyn. I've done many videos on the Battle of Brooklyn, B. Yeah, you gotta watch my old videos. Search Gowanus Urbanist, and that's one of the main sites. I talk about the Battle of Brooklyn. I hope we can get into the cemetery. This is Copp's Cemetery, and it's the second oldest cemetery in all of Boston. The oldest one being King's Chapel, which we visited on our haunted tour, and also the first part of the Freedom Trail. And I might need to walk all the way around it. But before I do, and disfrutando Boston, sí, Manolito, a mí me está encantando Boston. Para las personas mirando en español, pueden preguntarme cualquier cosa de Boston. Estoy en la ciudad cerca de Nueva York. I'm enjoying Boston, very close to New York. Feel free to ask me anything. And can you see the Boston Harbor? Yeah, we'll see a little bit better views of the Boston Harbor soon. So we're at Copp's Hill Terrace. And very bitter. Yeah. Horrible death. Honolulu had a big molasses spill in 2013. Oh, Janice, I didn't know that. Oh, interesting. And yeah, he does. Oh, what are you interested? Definitely rats in North End. They get whacked though. Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah. So rats are an issue. And am I reading a teleprompter? No, I am not reading a teleprompter. I don't have a script, and I don't practice these videos. The maximum I do have is a few notes, which I actually haven't even used it barely in this tour. But the max I do have is notes, which I actually can't find right now. But I have one single sheet of notes. That's the only thing I have. So beautiful, look, beautiful gas lamp in front. Wow, and it still is working. It seems to be an authentic gas lamp. Uh-oh, lots of cars here. Extemporaneous speaking. Yep, that's exactly what I'm doing. Extemporaneous speaking. Chris says I'm a great storyteller. Facebook live streams slower than molasses in January. Yep, you gotta, if you want to get faster information, Mike. And for anyone wondering, oh, why is this taking so long? This is a live stream. We take our time. This is slow travel. If you want a quicker video, you gotta watch other videos. There's other videos that are much more brief or much more scripted. This is not one of them. We're really enjoying our time. And I posted a video where I did this type of extemporaneous speaking, so I really do appreciate the compliments, because on that video, a lot of people didn't get why. They didn't get that I was doing that type of freestyle, free-flowing storytelling. So people were like, why are you speaking so slow? Why so many pauses? Why are you, this is so boring, it's taking too long. And I'm like, yeah, because it's not edited. A lot of people so many people are so used to quick content. They want everything edited and scripted. You know, you see a lot of Travel Channel, people want that information quick. But no, you know, sometimes you gotta just enjoy things that are spoken spontaneously. Walking around, wandering around, going on detours, getting lost. It's a beautiful way to travel. It's a beautiful way to learn. It's a beautiful way to converse. Whenever you're here with friends, or maybe you're with a local, or you're hanging out with a tour guide, I encourage you to converse. You don't need to know everything. You can speculate. You can ask questions. You can make educated guesses. It's very fun to do that. Life is boring when you have to know everything. Life is boring when you always have to be perfect. Life is boring when it's always on an itinerary. it's nice to let go of that and enjoy the beauty of the now. Let's continue our tour. Lori says, in real time fun. He's literally smelling the roses on this basket. Indeed I am. Oh, look at this tiny house. Oh, I love this. With the little bench in the front. Very Parisian. Snow Hill, yes. Oh yes, I'm glad your fellow locals watching. I'm actually trying to find the Spite House. Hey Meg, nice to see you here too. I'm so glad you ended up living in Boston for a while. It's a beautiful city. Absolutely love it. The Spite House, yes. Oh, I already see it. Oh yes. This is gonna be fun. We're gonna visit the skinniest house in all of New York. Boston. The skinniest house in all of Boston. And also it's colonial style. So it's not like those skinny skyscrapers which we visited earlier. This, ladies and gentlemen, is now called the Skinny House because it's an Airbnb. But it was formerly known as the Spite House. But wait a minute. Can anyone actually live here? Yep, someone actually does. And it was built in 1862. And I'm just gonna take a quick peek inside. People, we can't really see too much inside. So what's up with this house? Why is it so tiny and why is it called the Spite House? Well, let me go into the graveyard. So in 1862, Civil War was in full swing. And there were, according to legend, no one knows if this is true. I couldn't find any evidence 100% historically, but this is the story that a lot of Bostonians tell. Two brothers inherited a part of this lot here. You see all these row houses? They own this entire corner. Their father died, and they had to split the land between two. However, one brother, who was a shipbuilder by the last name of Eustace, he was off to war. The other brother was still in Boston. And he decided to build himself, since he had to split the land with his fellow brother, he decided, wait a minute, my brother's off to war, let me just build a gigantic house and give him very little space. And then if he cares to dispute me, he can. He could try. It'll be very hard to do so, especially with the laws of 1860. And that's what he did. So you can imagine 1, 2, 3, 4 row houses. That was the brother number one's house. When the brother came back from the Civil War, he found out that the inherited lands he had was only this tiny little piece. He could try to dispute his brother, but it was a bit difficult. And thus, he decided to build a house, just to spite him. And that is the Spite House. It's very, very tiny. It's only 9 feet wide and 30 feet deep. and it's 4 floors. It's tiny. Just to say a big F you to his brother, because his brother took almost all the land. I think the brother is a little bit of a DICK. I gotta give it to the other brother. Like it's a bad move. He goes off to war, and he comes back and finds out he has to build a tiny house. He has no space. But luckily he was a shipbuilder, so he already was used to living in ships. So maybe this wasn't too bad of a deal. Typical house you see in Amsterdam. Do they get that skinny in Amsterdam? This is 9 feet wide. I'm not sure what's the conversion in the metric system. If anyone can let me know what 9 feet is in metric. But let me know. I haven't seen, from what I've seen, Amsterdam gets this tiny, like this. But I haven't seen that. Let me know if you have seen a few houses in Amsterdam like that. All right, here we're in Kopp's Burying Ground. Kopp's Burying Ground is a very important place because there's a few famous people buried here. And let's see if we can spot one of them. Where are the people though? Are there witches? Says Roseanne. No, I mean, Boston is already a really small city. It has only a population of about 700,000 in the city, and the metropolitan area is 4.8 million, but it's not like New York, it's not really concentrated. There have been some spite buildings. Yes, spite buildings are something you'll find in many cities. Almost every city has one spite house. So 2.74 meters, that's how wide this house is. Speaking of brothers in the Civil War, I found the grave of the 2 brothers who died within weeks of the Civil War, who fought each other on the other side in Greenwood. Oh, cool, B. Griffin. Let me know their names. That's so interesting. Good job, Ariel. You practice a new method of educating people. Indeed, I do. Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad you enjoy it. Anatoly. That isn't your Airbnb, is it, Ariel? And there we go. I'm revealing to you all, that's exactly where I'm staying. The Spite House. I've been sleeping like this every night. That's how I've been sleeping, like a vampire in rest. Yeah. No, I'm joking. I would have been tempted to actually stay there. All right, we gotta find this gravestone because it ties to some Salem history. So it might be that one. Let's see if we can find it. Kind of zigzagging around, but it's one of these gravestones. So please forgive me, people who are buried here. I'm walking right on your graves just to get around the people so I can get to the grave a little bit quicker. This is by far the best YouTube channel. Oh, I'm so glad you're enjoying it, Joe. We really enjoy your live stream so much. Oh, thank you so much. Nope. Is it this one? Nope, it's not this one. All right, Bostonian locals, if anyone knows, where is the burial of Cotton Mather? Dun dun dun. All right, we'll find another burial also as we're walking through. No, there's no queen size bed in that Spite House. So a little bit of backstory here. 1775. The British and the colonists are at each other's throats. the British took control of America. I mean, of Boston. They took control of Boston. However, the colonists were just across the Charles River, and unfortunately now trees and houses blocked the way. But you see the obelisk there in the distance that I pointed out earlier. I'm going to zoom in. That's where the colonists were. So we can see it slightly after the trees. Right there. That obelisk, we're going to end this live stream over there. That's where they used to be. They came on this hill to bring their artillery and bombard Charleston. Charleston is the oldest neighborhood of Boston. And the colonists were in Breed's Hill. You'll get a good workout walking up that obelisk to the top, but the view is cool. Oh, okay, good to know. So this is how the bombardment will have looked like in the distance. Boston, where we are right now, the cannon fodder going to Charleston, completely devastating the old city of Charleston, to the point where there's not that many old historic buildings that predate that battle. That battle is known as the Battle of Bunker Hill, even though it was actually Breed's Hill. Most fascinating of all your tours so far. I'm so glad. We're trying to find two interesting gravestones. So let's see if we can find them. You know, I do a lot of research for these videos, but sometimes one needs even more research to find out the exact locations of like gravestones and stuff like that, and one has to visit it. So you're all joining me for the adventure of finding these gravestones. Oh, where is it? Don't see it. They're so skinny, and they're pretty well kept. There's a lot of them that are still readable. The grounds are on Whole Street, says Merck. African Americans were buried here as well. Oh, right there. Okay, we gotta go to that one. Okay, so we'll go to that one soon. U.S. militia, your 6-year-old son, Kavik, who had a birthday just a month ago, has made Nickelodeon slime cones. Oh, so cool. Thank you for inviting us over. Love the crunch of the leaves underfoot. Oh yeah, me too. Yes, here it is. I found it. Oh. No, it's not this one. can't quite locate it. All the gravestones look the same. So I forgot the name of the guy. I think his name was Macomb. Daniel Boone's on top of the hill overlooking the hill over Frankfurt. And yeah, the stones are very thin. There's one gravestone that has bullet holes on them. And I quite can't find it because, you know, they all look the same from a distance. But why does it have bullet holes? If anyone knows where that one is located, let me know in the comments. It was of a revolutionary who protested the British against the taxes. The tea tax and the paper tax and all these other taxes. And he was a big pain for those Brits. And in Britain, they made an absolute mockery of this guy. So when the British came over here and started their artillery fire towards Charleston, they used that gravestone to practice shooting. And those bullet holes are still there. So I wish I could find the grave, but I don't know exactly where it is. So if anyone knows in the comments, let me know. But there's one other grave over here. Let's go. I wouldn't want to have a view of the grave from my apartment. Oh, really? You know, I kind of find the graveyards pretty peaceful. Most of them are peaceful, in a way. Is it related to the Macomb? Oh, I'm not entirely sure. Good question. I'm not entirely sure if it's related to the Macomb of Macomb Bridge. Nope, don't know where Mather is either. Don't know. These guys are evading me. I don't think they want to be spotted. So I don't know where Mather is either. And I'm not talking about Marshall Mathers, aka and the Men. I'm talking about the father and son duo who at first wrote pamphlets about witchcraft, was amok in this new colony in America. And then later, it got so bad. Watched my video yesterday about the Salem witch trials. It got so bad that the father of the man who wrote those pamphlets, Cotton Mather, the father, Increase Mather, had to write another letter, another pamphlet to the people of Salem saying, hey, wait a minute, you guys are getting a little bit carried away. Show me some real evidence about the people doing witchcraft, and then yes, you can hang them and trial them and kill them. Otherwise, don't just count on the sayings of teenagers saying that they're seeing visions. Those two men are buried here as well. And pioneer cemeteries are fascinating to see where people lived and passed on. Yeah, indeed they are. And B. Griffin went to, oh my God, a rabbit. Oh, wow. Does anyone have carrots? He's looking at me. Oh, so cool. Oh, I love that. Lorraine, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. All right, let's see if we can approach it slowly. friendlily. He's not so scared. Oh, nice. Seems like someone has fed him before. Oh, he's taking a stretch. Oh, he's stretching. Oh, look at that. Oh, he's taking a good stretch. He does some yoga. He did a good downward dog. Oh, yeah. Wow. The people who hunt must, be really good at walking very quietly. That's so cool. That's amazing. So we might have not found cotton mather, but we did find a cotton tail, as B. Griffin says. So cool. Yeah, that's amazing. So we saw some wildlife here in Boston, and it wasn't a spectral rabbit, it was a real rabbit. All right, now let's continue on the Freedom Trail to Bunker Hill. So this is Cops Burying Cemetery, and I'm not sure how long we're gonna take to Bunker Hill. It might be quite a while, so buckle up. Freedom Trail. Okay, everyone, we're going to Charleston. Is it pronounced Charlestown or Charleston? Maybe it is pronounced town. So Charlestown. We're going to Charlestown. Oh yes, says that blonde lady owes you $20. Uh-oh. Charlestown. Charlestown. Oh, you want me to say in the Boston accent? Buckle up, folks. We just reached the 3-hour mark. Indeed, we did. Oh, so someone, I forgot what I was talking about before I saw the rabbit, but yeah, rabbits, they're nice. They're nice creatures. Very, very nice. And it was a friendly rabbit. He didn't move away very quickly. Usually rabbits are very kind of, they start sprinting the moment they see a human. Whoa. So originally the Cops Burying Ground was not part of the Freedom Trail when it was installed in 1950. Janice, thank you so much for putting the link. Oh yeah, it says from personal experience, there's a lot of rabbits all around in the North End. Oh, that's so cool. I literally thought I would be able to do this tour in about 2 hours, but yeah, this part of the Freedom Trail is much longer, especially if you just zigzag through North End as we did. I'm not entirely sure how long it'll take to Bunker Hill. Let's see. How long will I be staying in Boston? Until Monday. With the hills and the factories, this reminds you of Sunset Park, says B. Griffin. Yeah, it does. It is interesting. Oh yeah, it says Ducati Pizza right here has great pizza and beer. Oh, interesting. It's pretty empty right now. Thank you for the recommendation. So Oyez recommends Ducati Pizza. Am I going to visit the U.S. Constitution? Yes, we're going to go to the USS Constitution. I don't think we'll be able to get into the museum. Though I'll give it a try, actually. We'll see. 7 seconds. So this is in construction. We're going this way to the new Freedom Trail. See the red streak. And Converse HQ, yes. So Converse started here and is still here. Thank you, Converse. My shoes, my favorite shoes for walking, were made here. Well, not made here technically, but the corporate offices are here. And it's not even that big of a neighborhood because I started right around there. And we can see it very close. I walked that part of the trail and it felt so long. Oh, John, I think that means we're in for a treat. This is no longer going to be a brief broadcast. It's now going to be a 4-hour one. I'm very curious for the people who watch these full broadcasts, where you're watching, or how do you find the time to watch all of them or the entire broadcast in one go? Let me know. Mike says actually my shoes were made in Beijing. Probably not in Beijing, probably another Chinese city, but yeah, they're probably made abroad. Oh wow, this is far. Goddamn, Bunker Hill is very far away. Look. Oh, so far away. All right. Converse should pay me, says Irene. Longest stream was 11 hours. Not for me. That might have been another streamer. Let me know who streamed for 11 hours. Whoever they are. They are a madman. They took down the iron cover of the bridge. Yeah, they did. The Boston Garden says, oh yes, is down there. The Boston Garden. Oh, right there, the Boston Garden, which is now the TD Garden. And right here is the second widest suspension bridge in the world. The first widest suspension bridge in the world is in Australia, and it's 1 inch wider. The bridge name, ooh, I don't know this Charles something. I don't know the full bridge name. If anyone does, let us know in the comments. Uh-oh, this is a very precarious bridge because the water is right down there. I feel it shaking. This does not feel stable. We're hanging on by a steel thread. Charles Zubalaki Bridge? Charles Zubalaki Bridge? Really? Oh, it's called after a Polish American? Susie, you're watching from Bushwick and cannot stop watching. Oh, I'm glad. I can't stop walking. B. Griffin trusts a bridge hanging on a steel thread. Literally, it's shaking. If I jump on this bridge, I'll fear for my safety. It's the cannolis you ate shaking the bridge. Maybe. Look. Uh-oh. Not fun, not fun. Look at that. Shakiness. Oh, I forgot to mention. The North End. H.P. Lovecraft wrote a book about the North End. It's called Pickering something Pickering. I actually have the cover or one of the drawings in it right here. And in the book, he mentioned that the North End, just ask any of the locals, I'm paraphrasing, just ask any of the locals and they would tell you about the tunnels that crisscross the streets, connecting neighbor to neighbor, persecuting and prosecuting anyone underneath. I'm of course paraphrasing. He says it in a much more creepier way. But he was right. Those tunnels were not made up. They're not fiction. From H.P. Lovecraft's very troubled mind. They were actually real. So real that here's a photo from the 1930s, but it is believed that many of them have been sealed. Those tunnels might have been used by industry to transport goods between building to building, or they might have been used by the black market. Whenever they would take goods over here, maybe they'll bring their tea or their coffee from Brazil. But along with their coffee from the Brazil, they might be smuggling, unfortunately, slaves. Or, I'm of course speculating, I don't know. Or they may be smuggling something a little bit more innocent. Some cocoa leaves. Or some illegal silverware. There's the trolley that I took in the beginning of my trip. Leonard, thank you so much for watching. I need some slumber, but for the Metro Manila. Thanks for the great tour. My pleasure, Leonard. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy the tour later. Marie asks, how many days would I recommend in Boston? So, I am traveling, making live streams and doing a whole lot of research about history. So, I'm mostly visiting 1 or 2 major sites per day, or like today where we're going on the Freedom Trail. So, you can easily do this. You can do the Freedom Trail in a day if you're very active. Or you can do it split up into 2 days. And on the Freedom Trail, you can visit a bunch of other sites. All the top sites you can visit, such as the State House, Faneuil Hall, soon the U.S. Constitution, the various burial grounds as we visited. You can also just do that on the trolley and get around even quicker. So Boston is a very easy city for a day trip. If you're just visiting for a day, actually, you can't really visit for a day since it's a little bit farther away from other cities. But if you're visiting for one day, if you're staying overnight, it's a great city for that. And you can easily do one entire day in Boston and enjoy all the major sites. But if you really like your history, and maybe want to go to Salem as well, I think you would not get bored if you visit here for a week. You will have plenty of stuff to do. What's the absolute must-see in Boston? Great question. I really love the first half of the Freedom Trail. There's so many concentration of things to see and do. Uh-oh, I'm running out of battery. There's so many concentrations of things to see and do. So I absolutely love the first half of the Freedom Trail. So do that, 100%. Salem is very interesting. Very great day trip to go. So I would recommend Salem. Have I been to Plymouth? No, I have not been to Plymouth. Not yet. DJI Osmo Mobile. Yes, I'm using the DJI Osmo Mobile. And yep, you can see my shadow. Okay, let's see if we can get into the U.S. Constitution Museum. Ooh, it's getting cold now. Did I go to Marblehead? No, Alex, I did not go to Marblehead, which is right by Salem. No. I only spend the afternoon in Salem from morning all the way to about 6 p.m. A little bit earlier. I actually left around 5. Okay, the distances here are much longer. Whoa, okay. Okay, everyone. We are finishing at the U.S. Constitution, but the good thing is we can still see Bunker Hill from this viewpoint. And if you have any last remaining questions, feel free to ask. I'll be live about maybe 10 more minutes as we go to the U.S. Constitution. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to give a big shout out to the people who have been donating. Hisami, Laureen, Britta, Knitting Hutch, Judith, Nicole, Lane, Tom, Liz, Andrew, Nicole, Brendan, Sharon, Sandra, another Sandra, Park, Rita, Monica, Isaac, Graham, Tom. Kay is another one who I missed, unfortunately, a few super chats the past 2 days from her. So thank you so much, Kay. And there's many, many other people who have been donating and becoming patrons and new Facebook supporters. So thank you to all of you for helping everyone show these new parts of cities around the world on live video, slow TV, taking our sweet time from place to beautiful place. And of course, coming across many amazing things and amazing food. And here, I'll put it one more time. If you want to donate, you could go to paypal.me/Ariel or patreon.com/urbanist. We are going to the USS Constitution, the oldest naval ship still afloat in the world. Susan says, you're so deserving. Oh, thank you. Ooh, a ghost sign. New England Distributing and Warehouse Group. Interesting. So now we are at the Boston shipyard. Joe says, do not forget to hit that like button. And yes, big thanks to Joe, Stephanie, Judith, and B. Griffin. Everyone give a big round of hearts to all of them. B. Griffin has been encouraging people to hit that like button along with the ranks of Joe, and also leaving extra tidbits and extra information throughout the tour. So big round of hearts for all those people. All right, let's see this oldest shipyard. Right here, okay. I'm not sure if we can get a closer look. Let's see if we can get a closer look. What's on their dinner tonight? Ooh, it will be seafood. Oh yes, 100% seafood. Oh yes, I am grabbing some clams. Maybe some lobster. And maybe some scallops. And also maybe some oysters. And also maybe some flounder. And maybe I'll do a swordfish while I'm at it. And, you know, actually thinking about it, I also have some octopus. Yeah. Is it closed? No, it's not closed. But I'm not sure if it's open during the day, but I'm not sure if it's open at this time. Alex says I go legal seafoods. Oh, thank you for the recommendation, Alex. In linguine, ooh. Well, that sounds good. I can't handle any more pasta or bread. I just want pure fish. Just want it fresh off the boat on my plate. And not even put properly with a little parsley leaf. I just want it kind of plopped onto my plate. That's the type of fish I want. Union Oyster House. I don't have PayPal. If I click on the money in the chat, Can I still donate? Yes, you can still donate on YouTube. You can donate on YouTube, you'll be safe. YouTube is owned by Google. So whatever you think about Google, if you think it's safe, which I think it is, and I think a lot of people will agree, yeah, it's a great way to do it. So yeah, Super Chat. I put PayPal because I get the most amount of it. PayPal only takes off a few cents, but YouTube takes around like 30%, but it's still a great way, whatever is convenient for you. Here is the oldest naval ship still afloat. It's a long wait. So since I'm ending here, I might do a bonus recorded video. So stay tuned, potentially, if I go inside. But here is the oldest naval ship afloat, the USS Constitution, which was built in the late 1700s during the second presidential term of George Washington himself. Oh, yep, this ship is that old. Look at that. Look at that, whoa. But this ship, the American Revolution was already done. And this ship was called Old Ironsides because it was designed by a young man called Humphrey. The hull is 25 inches thick. And according to certain accounts during its War of 1812, where it destroyed 2 British ships, warships, the cannons that hit the ship bounced off. There's a cannon boom on Sunset? Oh, that's interesting. But why did they build the ship initially? They ended up using it for War of 1812, but this was built around 1797. Well, the first use was against those bloody, terrible Berber pirates from Algiers. Here's a depiction of those pirates. These were by far the worst of the worst. Unlike the pirates of the Caribbean or the pirates who were French or English origin that were semi-legal because some of them were privateers, these Berbers were ruthless. They would kill and slaughter everyone. They would also, according to legend, though I don't know if this is 100% true, but there's a lot of depictions of it, they would enslave Christians. You know, they would enslave white Anglo-Saxon people and take them back to Algiers. But then in 1797, the U.S. made a pact, an ally with Algiers, and they took care of the Berbers for them. So it never saw war with the Berbers. But it did see war with the British, and saw a battle with the French during 1812. So let's take a closer look at it. Go to Warren Tavern in Charleston, oldest pub in Boston. Ooh, yes, I heard about Warren Tavern. And let me see if I can find another. Here it is. And here's another depiction of it destroying a British warship. Your pirate ancestor was, he was not a Berber. My pirate ancestor was of Czech origin, Czechoslovakian, via Spain, if I recall correctly. And then he went to Puerto Rico. Charlestown, yes. Sorry everyone, I keep saying Charleston. Just because I'm so used to a lot of places that have the T-O-N. Most places have T-O-N and they have T-O-W-N. So Charlestown, sorry for the mispronunciation. So yeah, you can tour the ship. The line is pretty long. And for our final story is Bunker Hill. As I mentioned, the British were bombarding Bunker Hill. However, the general at that time, Howe, he decided to do a full frontal assault on the hill. Now, Battle of Bunker Hill was actually not fought in Bunker Hill, it was fought in Breeds Hill. Bunker Hill is actually behind it. And more than 1,000 British met their death on Bunker Hill. 450 Americans were killed. It was a very, very bloody battle. Here's a depiction of it. Actually, that's the Berbers. Here's another depiction of it right here. one of the most famous battles, and they build an obelisk in its honor. So that brings us to the end of the Freedom Trail, the end of exploring Boston's really American Revolutionary history. There's even more. You can get into really big detail about all of its history, and I highly encourage people to take a little bit more time in the North End and take a little bit more time in each spot, and then potentially visit the insides, because a lot of the spots we end up going on the Freedom Trail, they do have museums and they do have exhibitions, or they have tours. And I think it's really worth it. And also, of course, Bunker Hill, which strikes me to be like a 45-minute walk. So I thought I could finish the Freedom Trail today, but 45-minute walk, and I'm not entirely sure if it's too interesting to go through. It might be a tour in of itself. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in. I'm going to have dinner with my friends Matt and Mark. Maybe we'll call up Ben to see if he wants to hang out. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all the support. And let's ship off to Boston, like the Dropkick Murphys say. And there might be a bonus tour tonight. And there'll definitely be a tour tomorrow at 1 p.m., followed by another one at 1 p.m. as well on Monday. I'm going to go back to Bobo's sometime before this trip to have one more time that taste of Nona's kitchen in the old country. Everyone, keep being awesome and always keep on exploring. Have a great day from sunny Boston. Bye-bye.